I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 on a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk. Gotta keep quiet, maneuver in silence to let them in, talk up their body, another one body, that's just how it go. I got some secrets, I'm shaking the game so they stay on their toes. Stay in your lane, how to stay on the go. I can play with the pros and act like a rookie, so they overlook me. They're not double up again, none of their knows, none of them cold. They just got lucky but never adapted, so I'm to the one if it's coming to blows. My enemies is cutting it close, I let them think that they got me, but what do you know? I had them beat.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Startups on the Blocks. Hello there, Gabriel. Welcome to Startups on the Blocks. You still got your mic on mute there, but you can turn it on. Go ahead. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. Good evening.
Yes, and we got DeAndre waiting as well. We got a great show lined up for tonight. Hello there. We're looking forward to you both. And listen, I'm going to share my screen just 1 second here. Let me get it up and running, and just to kind of pay a little homage to our sponsors and everything. So let me get that up. All righty. So yes, so this is our 51st edition of Startup on the Blocks for our event, and so we're excited about that. And we wouldn't be able to move forward with what we're doing without our sponsors, and we definitely want to give them a shout out. And also, I want to give our guest here a little shout out as well. We got a great lineup for you all the next few weeks here. And we're excited to have Gabriel on, and I'm going to let him tell us a little bit uh, about the himself and the program he's running. Go
Excellent.
right
Well,
ahead. So we just finally connected a couple of days ago, and understand you were up in Massachusetts, and we were down here in Pensacola, Florida.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm actually most recently from Tampa. I just moved up
Oh,
here about 2 months ago. So
oh,
it's new
okay.
to
So
me.
you
Yeah.
know all about Florida then.
Oh, yes. Beautiful. So
So tell me a little bit about yourself and the role you have with your company.
absolutely. So my name's Gabriel Yeager. I recently joined Public Consulting Group. We're a international organization providing consulting services primarily to education and government entities. So we help them with their internal workforce structure and really help them develop better training programs. That's my specialty is training and development.
Okay. So training and development. So is that something you learned going to school, or that's just something you learned from experience, or what?
A little bit of both, actually. I have
Okay.
an extensive background working in higher education. I do have a master's degree in instructional design and technology,
Okay.
so I help develop those online training programs.
Okay. I got $1 million question for you before you get started here. So the so I got connected to Public Consulting Group through this apprenticeship program stuff and pre-apprenticeship program, and I understand you're working with that same effort a little bit.
That is correct, yes. So for the last 4 or 5 years, I've been working in the apprenticeship space. So I help develop intentional on the job training solutions for organizations. So that
Oh,
is creating on the job training programs with that related instruction, which it could be through a college or it could be other industry certifications, whatever it may be
okay,
to help that
okay.
individual.
Yeah, so we're kind of looking to see if we can leverage some of that stuff for our startups, and bring folks on that way as well. So, what does apprenticeship program have to do with entrepreneurship training?
That is a great question. So, one of the great things about apprenticeship is that it's really mentor driven, right? So, it's taking an expert in the field and them guiding you through how to do your job, right? So, you can take those same principles and apply them to entrepreneurship. So,
Okay.
by having mentors that are successful entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
teaching the next generation of entrepreneurs, it's a great
Okay.
opportunity.
So, but there's no, is there such a thing as apprenticeship program for entrepreneurs?
That's what we're working on. So we do have a pre-apprenticeship, which is kind of the stepping stones into an apprenticeship, and
Okay.
that is the CEO program that we have here.
Okay, so it's like a pre-apprenticeship program. Okay,
Mhm.
fantastic. I won't hold you up any longer. You can get your presentation on the roll and share it with the audience. And want everybody to understand that this is a program that's coming up, and we're encouraging you all to take advantage of it and understand it's free. So go right ahead there, Gabriel.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And thank you again for inviting me to speak here today. Hopefully you can see my screen with the slide here.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you for confirming that. So real quick, we'll go through this as quickly as possible and give you some opportunities for questions at the end. But just a quick overview, CEO is an online 10-week business and entrepreneurship training program. So when we say that, it's not strictly for entrepreneurs, right? You need these skills to be successful in business as well to be a successful business manager. So a lot of that is overlapping. So ultimately, it's designed to build your overall business and financial skills and knowledge and monetize your passion and provide you with the tools needed to start your own business or find a new job. I can say for me personally, I am an entrepreneur. I own a few businesses myself, and so does my wife. And having the ability to take an idea and turn it into something that is not only meaningful for your community, but also able to help you financially is a great and rewarding feeling. So through this program in 10 weeks, you gain some of those essential skills. Now, you did say that the program is free at this time, and that is correct. The program is currently underwritten, which means it's covered by a grant by the TechQuest Apprenticeship Program, which is currently being housed out of Clark University. It's a $12 million grant, which Public Consulting Group is assisting them with. So in our previous cohort that we have a few quotes here. I won't bother reading those for the sake of time, but you can see over on the right that we have a pretty diverse representation for our participant breakdown, which is really meaningful because you're working in small group teams. Having that diversity in your teams is really helpful for creating diversity of thought, meaning you're being challenged to think of ideas outside of your own, and you're getting bigger picture outside of the box solutions, right? So it's very powerful having a diverse representation. And you can see at the bottom, we have a statistic here of 82% of respondents saw an increase in business skills confidence reported from pre-program to post-program assessment. So it does have metrics saying that it does work, which is fantastic. So who is CEO for? CEO is really for anyone that is looking to enhance their skills, right? And for this grant, we do have some criteria to make sure that you can attend for free, right? And this is for individuals that are over the age of 17, they're no longer in high school, and they're authorized to work in the US. That is the big criteria. There's some other specific areas that we're looking for to help meet our diversity requirements for the grant. However, we encourage everyone to apply because we can often find a way to get you eligible for the grant funding so that you don't have to worry about the cost of the programs. Free for pretty much everyone. It's fantastic. So at the conclusion of the 10-week virtual program, participants will actually complete a pitch contest with their team. So you're working in small groups, and the first place prize or the first place winners actually receive a prize, which is fantastic. So not only are you going through this whole process of creating your own little small business model, but you're also going and getting that experience of pitching it to financial investors. We'll have actual financial investors on the call, and they all vote on who is deserving of that first place prize. So it's a very rewarding experience. You also build necessary skills to start your own business or thrive in the professional workplace environment, as mentioned previously. And you're better positioned to find the right employment and are ready to work. So if you're looking to develop some of those business skills, this is a great way to do that. You can also earn a voucher for an industry recognized certification. So we actually have a partnership for the entrepreneurship and small business certification, where if you choose to go on and take that exam, you're welcome to do so. And through the grant, we can actually cover the cost of that first exam voucher. And then grow a strong network of peers and mentors to leverage in future business and professional endeavors, just like you're doing here today. Hopefully you were attending the networking before this. You had an opportunity to meet some like-minded individuals. Through this program, you get to work very closely with them for 10 weeks, which is a huge benefit to you and your professional growth. All right, so participants should have access to the following to successfully complete the program. This includes an electronic device that can be used for coursework and video conferencing, such as a laptop, desktop, or tablet. If you're here today, odds are you're good to go. So the program has a few key components. There's 6 of them listed here. We have e-learning modules. So this is online learning content. We try to keep it interactive so that way you're not falling asleep at your computer just watching videos, right? This is actually my specialty, is creating that interactive content. So these e-learning modules, I feel, are pretty decent. Hopefully you would find that as well. There is facilitated sessions, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment, where we have the instructor actually provide lectures, and then there's some guest speaker events as well. So we have experts in the field come in and share their stories and help you develop your own. There's a weekly recap for all of the training that is provided, and there are team meetings. So again, you're working in small teams. Those small teams are actually led by mentors. So you'll be assigned a mentor that will be pushing you through this process every step along the way and giving you their subject matter expertise, providing their experiences to walk you through the process. There's also office hours, so you can meet with a training facilitator as needed and discuss any questions or concerns you may have. So the typical week here, the program, I should say, is broken down as you see on your screen. So it's actually about 2 modules per week that you're completing, and these are some of the topics that are covered. So what does a typical week look like? Here we have a brief breakdown of what it may look like. So this is all Eastern time. So if you're Central time, it might bump back an hour. I know you're right there on that border in Pensacola. So, but as you can see here, there's 2 modules, and you would meet Tuesdays and Thursdays. These are mandatory facilitated sessions, so you need to make sure you have the availability to actually attend these meetings. There's the guest speaker meeting, which will actually alternate between Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I believe it's every other week we alternated it. And then there are office hours on Monday, as well as the weekly recap session. And then usually every other week, you would be meeting with your team and your mentor on Friday or Saturday. And the time is up to you. It's decided by the group. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, we have a couple opportunities. We actually have a full information session coming up on September 2nd. That's next week. And you can actually just go to this link, and I'll post it if I can in the chat. It's tqaclark.com/CE-O. And the next cohort that we're running is actually September 13th. Now, it does take a little bit of time to get your information in the system to see if you're eligible for the grant. So please do not hesitate to apply or follow up with us if you have any questions. For the application process, the eligibility criteria, you can see here it requires your current resume, driver's license, or a federal or state issued ID, social security card, and proof of veteran status if you're a veteran. And we use that information to determine eligibility. So please, I know that sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get those documents. Do so as quickly as possible if you're interested. All right, and if you are located in any of these areas, over here on the right, there is a specific application process for you to go through. But if you're not in one of these targeted areas on the right, there's a general enrollment down here. You can see it says not in any of these locations, apply for enrollment here. This is on our website, that URL provided right here. All right, so I tried to get through that as quickly as possible. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We have a group email here called CEO. Make sure you got the H in there, at PCG US, so that's Public Consulting Group US.com. And again, my name is Gabriel Yeager. I'm the Training and Development Associate, and my supervisor, Ori Shatton, the Program Manager for CEO. We are both on that email, and we have a couple other training coordinators that will be happy to assist.
Fantastic info there. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so looks like we have one question from Pat Rooney so far, and he says, is that is your deck shared or going to be shared afterwards?
Yeah, I can absolutely send that out, or I can provide it to you, Lloyd, if you
Yeah,
would be willing to share.
yeah, that'll be fine, and I'll email it out or have a link to it. Yeah. So so are there any more questions out there? Yeah, I'm just truly amazed that there is a pre-apprenticeship program for entrepreneurship. I'm so excited about that. That's really neat. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, I had the opportunity to work on the American Apprenticeship Grant for the last couple of years, and one of the big things I worked on was tech startups down in Tampa Bay and St. Petersburg. So I'm very passionate about it.
Okay, fantastic. So the so so you said they got pretty good response, for the people that went through the first cohort. So yeah, I'm definitely encouraging everybody out there to take advantage of this free training and get connected to this. You got any closing thoughts there, Gabriel?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and join you in this call. So thank you, and thank you for everyone that was listening. I see that the link was shared in the chat, so thank you for that, Lloyd Jr. And yes, I'll provide the slideshow for anyone that's interested.
All righty. Thanks,
Thank you.
million. And looks like there's a question before you go. What are some of the industry certifications that you use? That's from Sandy.
Yeah, so the primary one is the entrepreneurship and small business certification, and that one is provided through Clark University. They actually host the testing for it. Sorry, but I don't remember the actual industry body that supports that one.
Yeah, So, but the good news is that it's under that workforce thing. So people
Yes.
that need financial support. So that's a pretty good deal. All righty, so we're going to move on. DeAndrea, would you please come on? Yes.
Yes.
Hello. So what did you think about Gabriel's presentation there?
I think that sounds super, super amazing. Anyone that's interested in entrepreneurship seems like a great way to get some free hands-on learning and ability to win a prize at the end, which is always great, free money.
Yeah, I guess I'm surprised no one asked what was the pitch contest amount.
Any money over zero is better than zero. So
That's fantastic. So I guess a few months ago we had the pleasure of having Jen on, and I understand you work with Jen, and so she
Yep.
recommended to get you on. And I just really appreciate the support, you and she of helping us out here, with this industry knowledge, working with applications and building applications. So I think it's pretty fantastic. Yeah. So would you, if you would, go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you. And we just met through email, I guess, yesterday, and
yeah.
and so got to talk a little bit earlier. So it's really exciting and refreshing, and we want to learn a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are.
Yeah, sure. Happy to do so. So my name's DeAndrea. Jen and I both work together on the Google Pay app within Google. And so Google Pay is one of our payment products. And so that's what I'm most knowledgeable about, kind of the fintech space in terms of like product building. But I've been in strategy and operations roles for the past like 5 years or so now. Prior to Google Pay, I was working on ad strategy products. And then prior to that, I was working with the marketing team on some of their strategies and how to determine what's getting us the best return on investment, and things of that nature. My alma mater is Howard University.
All right. Okay.
I'm a very proud alumna of that institution, and was sad that homecoming last year was canceled, but hope to make it this year if the Delta variant doesn't prevent all our fall plans. But yeah, I was in the Bay Area for several years. And then with COVID and work from home, I moved to Chicago last year, my hometown and home state. But Yeah, I think that's kind of me in a nutshell. Personal facts. I love traveling, love movies, love family, love laughing, and excited to be here with you all. I enjoy sharing any knowledge that I can if it is helpful to anyone as they're figuring out their own journey of their product or what they're trying to be an entrepreneur with. And so, any learnings I can take from big tech and pass on to you all, happy to do so.
Yes, and from your little background spill, sounds like you like the big city.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in Chicago. I have a lot of family in South Carolina. My mom's actually from a town called Cowpens, South Carolina.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
in the Greenville, Spartanburg, or Gaffney
Okay.
area. I think those are a couple of towns that people may have actually heard of. But we
Mhm.
spent a lot of summers down there. So I got both experiences, city and country, growing up, and I've decided I'm partial to the city.
Okay, fantastic. So, how did you kind of figure out the space, and what did you actually major in at Howard that sort of got you on this path?
Yeah, so I my concentration was supply chain management, but I
Okay.
got a bachelor's in business. So with that degree, you cover a variety of things: finance, accounting, negotiations, etc. And so I knew I wanted a career in business.
Okay.
Howard partnered with a program called MLT, Management Leaders for Tomorrow, and
Okay.
so they work to map Black and Brown students that are in college with different companies post graduation. And so
Okay.
that's the company that first helped get me connected to Google.
Okay.
And I did an internship with them long, long time ago. Really enjoyed the internship, really enjoyed the culture, and then went there full time and have been there for several years ever since.
Okay. Fantastic. And so, um, yeah. So it sounds like a neat journey so far.
Yeah, yeah. So far, it's been really good. Definitely enjoyed my experience there. Definitely been able to learn a lot. Definitely have also enjoyed the ability to try new and different things. I've been in kind of the strategy space for a while, but the team I'm on with Jen, who spoke a couple of months ago, I joined
Mhm.
that group less than a year ago. So
Okay.
I've enjoyed being able to also kind of bounce around and put my hand in different pots to figure out what I like and what I don't like.
So in your little presentation, now, are you going to talk about strategy at all?
Yeah, so what I'm hoping to walk through is kind of some product building foundations, and these are
Okay.
kind of general strategic things that I picked up that I think different strat and ops groups think about if you're
Okay.
trying to build a product, a feature, or service. And so, some key questions that we ask ourselves often when thinking about how do we stay competitive, how do we stay relevant, and how do we best help our users.
Okay. 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 Yeah. Well, I'll let you jump into it, and then if people have any questions, they can put them in the chat.
All right, sounds good. Well, hello everyone. I already kind of introduced myself and gave a little recap, but hoping to use this time to share any knowledge I have kind of just about some of the foundational elements of building a product or service and some of the key questions I've seen different teams ask themselves throughout my career, whether they're looking at how to market something or how to build a new feature. And kind of what are some things to be top of mind as you're being an entrepreneur and building an app or service or whatever business you're putting together for your consumers. So jumping right in, I've identified kind of four, I think, like base and key elements that are really important to think about and know the answer to have a successful product or service that you're trying to build. And I'll spend a little bit of time walking through each of these in their own separate slides. But to kind of just name all four of them, one is know your users. And I'll talk more about this later in the next slide, but we can spend a whole conversation on just knowing your users. I think knowing your users are super, super important, having a good understanding of kind of who they are, what they need, and how you can help them. The next one is know your value proposition. So, what is it that you do well, and what is it that you're offering to help your users? The third is know your differentiation strategy. I think, especially in the US, any type of service and industry is super competitive. There's a lot of like new founders coming to market, there's a lot of existing players. So, knowing what makes you stand out. And then lastly, know your monetization strategy. And I put that one last intentionally, and I'll talk a little bit about why I did that in a second. So for know your users, I've listed like a couple of key question and like brain teasers for you to think about. If you already have a business, like, do you know the answers to these questions about your users? Or if you're thinking about one, what are the answers to these questions as you're designing your service? And I put ... at the end because it really is endless. And I think you can never stop getting a good user understanding. Even mature products, they usually have some type of UX research team, and they're constantly running studies to try to understand and learn their users more and more. But a couple of things I think to start with as you're building out whatever it is that you want to make, like who are your users? Who are you trying to help? What do they need? How old are they? Where do they live? Where do they shop? What do they like? What do they don't like? Where do they work? What's their income? An example of a company that understood this really, really well is Cash App. If you look at Cash App's business model, the majority of their revenue comes from people that use the instant withdrawal once they receive money from someone else. So, you know, if you've used the app before, you can withdraw your money to your bank account and it can take like 3 to 5 business days, or you can withdraw it instantly and they charge a fee. The demographic that they marketed that service to was very, very specific. The people that were in cash-based economies but wanted their money immediately were like the barber, your hairstylist, maybe your nail technician. They didn't want to pay the credit card fees, and most of their customers don't care around cash for a lot of people in this generation. So Cash App then came with a service where you can easily get the money, and if you want it immediately, like you would if someone were to pay you cash, you can have it. Cash App was targeting people intentionally that were in cash-based businesses that they knew would want their money more quickly than someone else. Cash App's user wasn't like Jeff Bezos. Like Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, like if you transfer him $100, he doesn't care if he gets it immediately or if he gets it in 5 days because he has billions. But your local barber, they may need that $100 to go buy their groceries for the week or to go do whatever with. And so Cash App understood that, and they were able to figure out a way to best help them. And because that service helped them, their users had no problem paying the extra 10 cents or whatever it is to withdraw because they understood that this was a need and something that their users would find super, super useful. And so I think once you know your users really well, you can then figure out the next part, which is your value proposition. So, what is it that you're offering to your users that's going to help them? What is it that your users need, and how are you going to help them solve it? How is your product best equipped to solve your users' needs? And Amazon is an example of a company that did this pretty well. So, Amazon understood that a lot of people, like, they're super busy. If you can help save them time by delivering things to their doorstep and making it super, super easy to order, people will use their service. And so they were able to take that value prop of we can get you whatever you need in a minimum time flat and grow their business from there. They then could add advertising to monetize. They then were able to start building out cloud and doing a whole bunch of other things. But they had one very specific and really clear value prop to start that met their users' needs. I think that's also one thing that's pretty important that I've seen a lot of businesses that are like successful and expand do. They start with one thing that they do really, really well versus a lot. Even if you look at a company like Google, like now there's Gmail accounts, there's YouTube, there's Google Pay that we work for. But when Google just started, it was only the search engine. So they found something and they did it really, really well. And then they started expanding. I think it's really important when you're targeting to your users that you're telling them the specific need that you're helping them with. And then once you're able to master helping them with that need, then you can differentiate and expand on to other segments or aspects for your business. And so this is the third piece that I have here about know your differentiation strategy. There are some creators that are able to design something that's like completely new to market. So there's not any other competition out there. Unfortunately, these days, a lot of the times that's not the case. What you're bringing to market may have like a same product that's the exact same as yours or something really similar. So you have to figure out what sets your product apart. Maybe your product is the first to market and somebody else built something later. So then you still have to differentiate and say, why should users use my service versus someone else who's offering a similar thing? Cash App started figuring out how to do this. So Cash App first product was P2P, peer-to-peer payment. So you send your friends, your mom, your sister, your aunt, $5, $10, they send it back, you withdraw it. But there are a lot of other services in market that also offer that. Venmo does the same thing. Zelle does the same thing. PayPal does the same thing. So Cash App then started to try to figure out, how can I differentiate? Why should someone use my peer-to-peer payment services versus another company's? So then Cash App added Bitcoin. So not only can you now send regular money via Cash App, you can also send cryptocurrency. And that was their spin and differentiation. So yeah, you can use Venmo or these other services that do the same thing. But if you use our service, Cash App, then you can also send Bitcoin and do this other feature that they're not offering you. So they figured out how to make their problem unique and how to still have it be something to help solve users' needs. So it's still buying and selling, exchange of money, which is what the app is built off, financial services, but they're doing it in a special way and putting a spin on it that others, or a lot of others, weren't offering at that time, so that their product was able to stand out. Apple is another player that also does this really well. I said Apple's differentiation strategy is their ecosystem play. So if you have an iPhone, if you have the MacBook, if you have the Apple tablet, if you use Safari, all of those experiences are integrated. You can link them all together. And so that was their differentiation. Yes, you can buy a Dell laptop and a Samsung phone and you can use Chrome, but those experiences won't all be one, and you'll have different messages and things across all these different services. But Apple said, if you use all of our products, then we can make them seamless and you can access the same things across. So they found a way to break into fields that were already pretty saturated, but by putting an ecosystem spin on it, they were able to differentiate and really grow their business. All right. I don't see any questions yet, so I'll keep on trucking along. And the last, I think, big element that I have here is monetization strategy. And I put this one last because I think it's really important to get the first three right first. And if you do the first things three right, then whatever you're doing, you can charge users for later. A lot of businesses, especially like big names that we know now, their monetization came after they already had a big user base. Even if we look at Google. So Google search, originally there were no advertisements. It wasn't making any money. And then after it had a really big user base, it figured out how to monetize. Cash App is another one. Perhaps they already had their monetization strategy in the back of their minds. But at first, when you withdrew money out of Cash App, even if it was instant, there was no charge. And then they started charging for that service as a way to monetize, and people still paid for it because they liked it. Hulu is another one. I don't know if folks remember, but when Hulu first came out, it was a free no ad service. And then it was free if you watched ads, and you can pay to not watch ads. And then you had to pay even if you still had ads, and you can pay additional money to watch it without ads. So their monetization came after they had a big following. And so I think unless you're planning to build a product that's a nonprofit, this is something that you can think about after you have a good foundation, but it should still be in the back of your mind. Like, how will the product make revenue? Is this a service that users will want to pay for eventually if you do it really, really well? How much are you going to charge for the service? And what are multiple streams of revenue that you can be getting from your product? A lot of the big name products that we know now, like I was saying earlier, they started with one really specific thing, but as they grew, they started to add other things on top. So Amazon was first only a platform to buy and sell things, and then they added cloud. Google was only search, and then they added YouTube and Google Pay and Pixel devices and Pixel Books and all these other services. So after you get a good foundation and a good user base in the other three really, really well, you can then start thinking about, okay, how can I make this profitable for me? And which of my services that I'm offering do I think a user would want to pay for? Those were the top and big key points that I wanted to share with you all. So thank you all for having me, and happy to answer any questions.
Sure, that was fantastic, Deandra. Yeah, so this payment space is really it seems to be crowded, and a lot of different apps out there, and but I think it's good to try to find a niche. So let's see, we got a question here. How broad or specific should your target user be when you're first starting? Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah. I'd say when you're first starting, probably the more specific, the better. Because if you're really broad with your targeting, it's going to be hard to figure out what is it that they need if your users are all completely different. Um, Going back with the Cash App example, like they had a very specific segment of younger generation. They also wanted people that were in cash-based economies. Now, that's not the only people that use their products today, but that's who they were targeting. If you look at even the influencers that Cash App uses, it's like young hip hop, R&B stars. Like they're very clear about the users that they want. And even though users outside of that demographic still use it, the effort and the marketing and all their energy they're putting behind the product is to go for a really specific segment. And if they can get that segment well and that segment does great, then it's going to naturally expand. Like if you use something that you really like, and even if you were the target market, you're going to tell somebody else about it who may not have been the intentional audience. But because that product is great for you, you're going to share it and you're going to be able to expand by word of mouth, which is what helped Cash App a lot. There's a lot of like forecasts or report that talk about how Cash App pays only like $5 for like a new customer, which is extremely low for a business like Cash App. And that's because a lot of their growth is through referral and word of mouth because they were able to meet their users' needs so well. Their users just spread it to everyone naturally, and Cash App didn't even have to pay for that marketing or promotion.
Yeah, that's really good feedback um, on that. Yeah, because it's pretty expensive if you don't have a target audience and you're trying to pay for
Yeah.
advertising to a lot of people. That can get pretty expensive, right?
Right. And if you also think about how advertising has changed, like some big names like Nike still may do like a big TV commercial, but a lot of advertising efforts are very targeted. So a lot of them are either like influencers and you know who the followers of the influencers are, so you're reaching a specific group, or it's like targeted marketing if you're ever like shopping online and you see like you then get an ad that's similar to something that you were looking at, like all of that is very specific and targeted marketing. And people that use kind of like online marketing tools, they can set specific like demographics that they want, and they want people interested in this specific thing. And they do that because if they're going to spend marketing dollars and energy to try to get users, they want to spend it on users that they think will use their service. And everyone knows that not everyone's not going to use any service. Like even for big name products, there are some people that just aren't interested. So the more specific you can be about who do you think you use your service, then the more specific you can target them. And then you don't waste marketing dollars on TV promotions or ad promotions that are reaching a segment that may just not be interested or you're not meeting their needs. And you can go after who it is that you really want to help and serve.
Yes, and you mentioned Catch App. I guess you said something about $5 like for customer acquisition cost or something
Yep.
like that. Yeah. So, but do you know what their lifetime value for their customer is? You know, I don't expect you to know the answer, but the reason why I sort of put that there is so if it only costs you $5 to acquire a customer, but you make $100 off every customer,
Yeah.
that's $95 you got to play with
Yep.
there, and so you can go out and spend X times 5 and make 95 X on each one of the customers. So that's pretty neat. And that's kind of the reason why you have to have a target market, I would say.
Right. And yeah, I don't know Cash App's LTV, but I assume it's a lot higher than 5. I think there
I
are
think so.
some external reports that like estimated in maybe like the $30 or $40 range, which is still great because they have millions of customers. So that's 35 profit times their 9 million users or something like that.
Yeah, specifically, I was fortunate to receive $500 from one of our friends on Cash App yesterday. But anyway, I did notice that that they are paying $15 just to refer to, if you refer somebody and they get on there.
Hmm.
A long time ago, it was $5, but they must be making so much money off each customer. If they're willing to pay $15 for a new customer, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of factors. I think it's they have the means to do so, and also just the competition, which is what I was speaking at earlier about the differentiation. I think there were other like like I remember around the time when Cash App came out, there were definitely other like peer-to-peer payment products, but not as big. Like Zelle wasn't as well known, I don't think. Venmo wasn't as well known. Some people used Apple Pay, but not really. And then all these other products, once they saw there was a user base that would be interested in doing it, they started upping their game. So then Cash App had to up their game. So now they have to do $15 referrals, and now they have a Bitcoin feature. And so I think that's one important thing about staying relevant. Like your product is likely always going to have to like tweak and change
Hmm.
to keep up with the times and to keep up with your users. Because even if you know who your users are, your users change. Your users get older, they grow, and the next generation coming behind them may not be the exact same, even if they're in the same like demographic. Their needs may be different, what they're interested in may be different. So the Cash App is trying to find that balance of like keeping up with the changing environment, but also setting price points where they're still profitable if they get a new user on board.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so that was we went down cover a lot of things about customers and stuff there. So definitely appreciate that. And Sandy says you were right on point, with
Oh,
the answer. So that's pretty neat. So I think so, and I see because I noticed Cash App also, and we're talking a little bit about that. The business. So a lot of these apps now are targeting businesses as well. And
mhm.
Google Pay is, I know, I just noticed that earlier this year. I was telling Jen.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's fintech is super interesting, right? Because fintech is putting like traditional banks in a pretty awkward position because they're offering things that traditional banks typically offered for a lot higher cost or a lot higher fee. I think before a mobile payments app where you can transfer like large sums of money, you would have to wire it. And if you
Hmm.
wire it, that comes with like fees of their own. Or you'd have to try to do some type of direct deposit, which costs more for a bank to keep up because maybe it's a person involved and then there's a fee to do it. And so these services are coming and they're disrupting kind of the financial space. And so after they get consumers on board, the next gradual step is businesses, because that's where kind of like all the big assets and equity lie that a lot of people have. They're in some form of business corporation. And so these fintech companies are now intentionally targeting these businesses and saying, we can do what the bank is doing for you, but we can do it a lot cheaper and we can do it a lot faster and we can do it a lot seamless. And we can do, but we'll still charge you a fee. And that fee is probably higher than what they'll be able to charge a consumer because they're offering the businesses more. So they're pitching it as a win-win situation, like help us help you. And so I think what you'll also see is a lot of traditional banks kind of upping their game and being more technology friendly. Like, I don't know if 10, 15 years ago, if all these banks had an app, if there was like a Bank of America app or a Chase app, but now all these banks have that because they know their users want to be able to access and move their money around just as quickly if they were using a Cash App or a Venmo. So I think fintech will be super interesting to see how things shake out in kind of the next 10 to 15 years and who consumers are still using and like what new features they come up with to keep folks interested.
Okay, and looks like Henry has a question there. I don't know if you can see. It's pretty
Okay.
pretty.
Yep.
It's pretty long. I'll
All
let
right.
you
I
type
have
it.
another question. I'm a speaker and I've been focusing on high school football athletes because I played college football. My focus for pitching my services are the coaches in the area around me in my hometown. But when I speak, I'm focused on servicing the athletes themselves and not really the coaches. Am I moving in the right direction, or should I also focus on the coaches when I speak to? I'm not sure if it's the coaches or the athletes doing the word of mouth marketing. So I think that's a super, super great question. And if I were to break it up in kind of like a more general context, I would say you're asking, should I be focused on how I help my customers or how I help my partners? And because in business, you often have to partner with people. And I think in this question, the person you'd be partnering with are the coaches. And you're partnering with to help the athletes, and those would be kind of your end users and customers. And I think that's super interesting because that's something that I've been working on recently in terms of like, how does Google Pay better partner with banks? Because we want to help users. Banks already have a lot of users. How can we work with them to help their users? But if we just go to the banks with how we're going to help their users, they're not going to care because it's not helping them. So we have to do both. So I think this is a super great question. I think when having partners, you have to do both. And when it comes to value prop, you have to give the value prop for the party that you're talking to. So if you're talking to the coaches, your value prop and your offering has to be around how am I going to help you? How I'm gonna like and understanding like what's the coach's motivation. So some coaches are really good people and they may just want to help their athletes. So if you talk about how you're gonna help their athletes, they're all good. Other coaches may also be thinking about, well, wait a minute, if you're helping the athletes, then where does that put me in my job? So then what are you offering the coaches to either reassure them that you're not replacing them, you're an asset, you're going to help them coach better, you're going to help them get more athletes on their team, what's going to make them look better. Like you also have to understand the coaches' motivations as well. And I think that's any business you're partnering with. If you can understand your business partner's motivations and your users' motivations and how you can service both, you'll have a win-win situation.
Yeah, I really like that answer. You know, the partnering and partners benefiting each other. That's pretty fantastic. I Henry's got me curious about what his product or service is. Yes. So yeah. And so I think he's played on the UWF national championship team. So that's pretty neat.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you come out with.
yeah. So the so yeah. So I think yeah. So could we kind of like let's do a quick recap on the things you covered here and kind of like the key takeaways. And it's like it's um, there's definitely I'm glad you covered that monetization strategy and you and so I think that kind of because when you're uh, kind of formulating your pitch of an idea and you're not sure about your revenue model and then so just and the person being comfortable with knowing they're going to start out somewhere and evolve
Hmm.
and most people try to if think they have a well-defined revenue model but until you people are paying for it you don't it's not really validated.
Yeah, I think one thing that I face on teams is that there needs to be a healthy tension between like how you help your users and how you help your business.
Okay.
Because your business, like what you want is to make money. You want the most revenue.
Yes.
But your users, in order to do that, you have to figure out how to best service your users. And businesses go through different stages. I think when a business is first starting and it's a startup, I think investors invest knowing that if they try to withdraw the next year, it'll be a loss. Like the
Yes.
business most likely isn't going to be profitable and may not even be revenue driving. But the idea is that you'll build something that you can help these users so well that when you start charging them, they won't even care. If you look at Netflix, what they charge now is nowhere close to what they charged when they first came out. But people really love Netflix, so they were able to change their fees and people still use the service. I think when making pitches, it's tough because some investors may understand that, and other investors may be thinking, "How are you going to make money?" I think you can have a monetization strategy like in the back of your mind. So enter something where you know that it can make sense to charge for it. But I think it's really hard to be revenue driving and consumer growth driving, particularly in the first like couple of years of any business. And I would say like most big names that they were pretty consumer growth driving to start off, and they figured out how to add the money piece in later.
Right. And so what and kind of what I'm referring to there is like so some of our founders, I noticed, they're pitching their idea, and they do struggle with the revenue model. But to me, you do have to have some type of idea how you might make money with it,
Yeah.
and kind of feel comfortable with it. But now, what I hear you saying, also feel comfortable with understanding that it's going to be a journey on
Right.
revenue model based on the history of these successful companies right now, and they saw that their revenue model saw it evolve.
Exactly. Like for the first couple of years, I think like you're going to be in the red. When you're looking at your balance sheet, it's going to be a whole bunch of negative numbers at the bottom. But the idea is that when you look at your users, like that's growing exponentially. And so you have to you trust what you're doing, trust that you know your users really well, and that what you're giving them they need, or they don't know they need, but they do need it, which was Apple's kind of strategy. They were more of a push product. And if you know that and you feel very confident about that, the monetization will come. Now, I do think, like to your point, that that is something you have to have an idea of what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think Cash App probably thought about, charging for instant withdrawal fees and things like that, even though they didn't at first. It was probably in the back of their mind as a way to monetize it. But I think some things I don't know if they thought about when they first launched. Like, I don't know if they thought about the Bitcoin revenue stream when they first came out. I don't know if Jeff Bezos was already thinking about a cloud business when he was just trying to deliver you your purse that you ordered. And so I do think, like, as you grow your business, that you can add on different streams of revenue that can help with that monetization. And you don't have to have all those answers up front, as long as you have kind of that one key thing that you do really, really well. You can figure the rest out as you go. And a lot of the like big names out there, that's essentially what they did. They had a group of people that trusted them, they trusted themselves, and kind of all the other intricacies they figured out later after they answered kind of these first three first. Who are your users? What's your value prop? Why are you different? Like, why are you special? Why should they trust you to deliver this service to them?
Yeah, so when I look at the things you covered here, know your users, and to me that sounds like you solving a problem for these users. So you have to know your users in order to understand what their problem is, and then number two, in order to understand what value you're creating for. You,
Exactly, exactly. Like, if we go and look at like rideshare service companies, like Uber knew their users were people going from place to place, but they wanted a simpler way to get a car. They were in cities, they maybe didn't have a car, didn't drive, and cabs weren't working out for them. So they knew who their users were and were able to market a need to them. And Uber was losing money. It may still be, but it was losing money for a long time. But there was trust in the investors that this service is so needed, it will continue to be used, that
mm-hmm.
it will grow. And so Uber set out to solve like a specific need. We're going to help people that need to get around easily. They want to do it in a simple, seamless way, and the current options aren't working for them. And so they were able to fill in that need and fill in that gap. I think it's really hard to put something in market that's not helping your user do something.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even be helping them do something they didn't know they needed help with, but as long as it's adding value to their daily life.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about the things that you use, you probably don't use anything that's like, oh, this really isn't helping me much. Kind of your key products and services are things that's
Yes.
like, I need this.
Yes.
And so you really want to put something out there where your target market is like, I need this, and can have that feeling.
Yes. So I have a question. So like, uh, I'm interested in the payment space, and so, and I noticed like with Zelle, you actually sending money from checking account to checking account, and
Hmm.
and so that's like the ACH thing, and the company Dawala. Are you familiar with them?
Not familiar with that one.
Yeah, and so they've been around about I've been following them, I think, before 2011, and because I had what I liked about what their idea was that they had a lot of trouble getting started, um, but they were doing instant bank transfers. But they had
Mhm.
trouble getting the banks to cooperate with them until one of the banks
Mhm.
started bought some interest in them. But you know, come here, 10 years later, now they're doing instant. All the banks are working with them, and they're doing transactions just like Zelle, but they're actually doing them for payments for businesses. And so what I heard the new CEO talk, and he says that the traditional payments company, credit, like the credit card or debit card, and then they're on the other end with ACH. But he thinks they're going to be like kind of merging of the two somehow. They're going to kind of start coming
Mm.
toward each other. And I don't know if you had seen anything like that in the marketplace.
I haven't seen anything about that specific merger, but I think like that makes sense. I think companies merge all the time. Like Square recently, I think merged with Afterpay for like buy now, pay later services,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so that yeah, so I think that was kind of what I was speaking of about like the competition and market. And
Okay.
so if you know that there's big competition, and it'll be more valuable to you for you all to work together. Kind of what I was speaking about earlier about partnership. Like, can you
Yeah.
all help each other both be in a win-win situation? Then I think acquisitions and mergers make sense. I think for what you were talking about with Zelle, I think Zelle was in a pretty unique position because I believe like the major banks also own like a stake in Zelle.
Yes.
So it was kind of like they were using a network that they own versus a foreign network where they'll be passing off all of their data and infrastructure to somebody else. And
Yes.
so, yeah, so then Zelle was able to really partner with them because it was owned by the banks. But I
Yes.
think to your point that a similar service was introduced years ago, I think product market fit is really tricky, but also really,
Yes.
really important. I
Yes.
think you can be too soon or too late with certain
Mhm.
ideas and services. And you really have to look at kind of what's going on outside of just your product area. And that goes back to knowing your users, right? So
Okay.
where are your users kind of like in their life cycle? Where are they in their technological journey? How much will be too much? I think 10, maybe 20 years ago, the idea of hopping into a car with a stranger you found on your phone probably would have seemed outrageous.
Mm,
But Uber targeted the new generation that was like comfortable with that. And
mm,
so, similar thing with kind of like the transfer company that you mentioned that started earlier.
mhm.
Perhaps the demographic at that time, like that was too new of an idea. It was too big of a shift. These
Yes.
other services came around where technology was already growing. Phones were everywhere. Even little kids had them. People couldn't live without their phone. So naturally, having a way to send and receive money on your phone only made sense.
Yes.
Because it was a device that someone had with them all the time, everywhere. If a company would have tried that 30 years ago, that may have not been the case with all these different like apps and people using their phone for things outside of just like calling or texting.
Mhm.
And so so having like a good understanding of the external environment also really helps you understand kind of how to where and how to put your product. Because it has to fit with everything else that's also going on kind of like in the world and for your users.
Yeah. And so the kind of we um, going back to that differentiation strategy, so that's just like your competitor slide, in your pitch deck. And so typically when you're applying for a pitch competition or applying for accelerator program, they ask you a question about your competitors, and how different you are. So I kind of like the
Yeah.
way you touched on those four things. So there's some, looks like they're product, and user related things, and so like in when you're typically when you're so that so what I like to do with these new founders, and it's like you're pitching your idea as if your product already exists, and so and the product doesn't exist, and so but you still have to answer these 4 questions you have there and some of these other questions, and so and I think that's and I really appreciate you kind of emphasizing these 4 key things you actually need to do, and so
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, I think as you build product, there's probably like 100 more questions not on this list that you need to also ask yourself. But I think these as a good starting point, if you can have really clear answers to all of these, then you're probably in like a good place to start a pitch or to start forming a team to put something together really great.
Yeah, I agree, and then so knowing your users, and typically that's because you actually are familiar with the problem that you're trying to solve for your users. Maybe because your job or because of your hobby or something like that, and you know the pain, and that's kind of what gives you the go ahead there. But we definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing these words of wisdom. I like what you did, and hopefully you're going to provide us some slides too, like the previous guy.
Yes, I can definitely send this across to you, no problem.
Okay, fantastic, and I'll make sure everyone gets it. Last call for questions, everybody, because we're going to get ready to sign off here. Tia says she's had to leave, but she thinks she got a lot of good takeaways, so that's pretty nice. And
Oh, my pleasure, no problem.
yes, and she has she's one of our was in our first cohort, and so she's got the taste of Pensacola, and so she's kind of watched her thing there, and so yeah. All righty. Any parting thoughts there, DeAndrea?
I think thank you all so much for having me and for inviting me. Was happy to join you all and get to know a little bit more about startups on the block and what you all are doing.
Yes.
Hopefully, what I shared is somewhat helpful as you all are building out your businesses and continuing to grow. And yeah, thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, looks like we got one question slipped in here while you were talking. What are your thoughts on outsourcing other aspects of your startup, like marketing or accounting?
I think outsourcing makes a lot of sense. I think most I think it depends on when and how you do it. But I think most big companies outsource because you can't be an expert in everything.
Right.
I think a lot of to be because they don't have anyone else to help them with the resources. So they're the designer, the UX, the engineer, the marketer, the advertiser, the accountant. But I think as you grow, what you really want to focus on as the CEO is kind of the 4 things on that previous slide. As a CEO, you really want to focus on making sure you still understand your users, growing and maybe expanding your value prop, growing your that differentiation strategy, ways to like monetize. I think the nitty gritty things like putting together a creative for marketing or doing the books, the more you can either outsource that work or hire someone else to do that work, the more you as the creative founder, idea person, and generator can come up with the stuff that's really matters and really is going to sell. Like you're selling your product, you're not selling your accounting or your marketing technique. And so the more time you can spend on the stuff that's really going to get you your users, the more and more time that you can stay relevant. So whether that's hiring someone to do it, or if it's really specific work and it's cheaper than having like a full-time person, like outsourcing specific projects, if you have the resources to do so, I think that makes a lot of sense because you're the expert in your business. That marketer is the expert in marketing. And so everyone can then like use their expertise to help you grow.
Oh, fantastic. Great answer. All righty. That's, we really appreciate your insight. That seems like what a lot of the comments are actually saying. And we're excited to have, you share your expertise there. And thanks a million there.
No problem. Nice meeting you, Lloyd. Thanks again.
Same here, and hope to stay connected with us and keep sharing.
Absolutely. Have a good evening.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. We really appreciate you all chiming in tonight and supporting Startup on the Blocks. We look forward to seeing you all next week. We have a great guest lined up for you all. So take advantage of the stuff in the chat for the event this Saturday morning, and also definitely consider the CEO program. And we really appreciate you all joining us. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.